In our last two videos, we explored the importance of obedience and spiritual intuition. Today, we're going deeper into a critical part of our walk with God: divine timing and preparation. What do we do while we wait for God to bring His plan to pass? How do we stay faithful and ready? In Luke 22, 7-13, we see a beautiful example of how preparation and timing work together in God's plan. In the passage, we see Peter and John tasked with preparing the Passover meal. But notice the timing. Everything is ready when they arrive. The man with the jar of water is already in place. The room is already furnished. This wasn't just about their obedience. It was about God's divine timing. God had been preparing the way long before Peter and John set out. And this is true in our lives as well. While we are moving forward in obedience, God is orchestrating things behind the scenes. Let's think of the story of Joseph in the book of Genesis. Joseph endured years of waiting, first as a slave, then in prison, but all along, God was preparing him for a greater role as a leader in Egypt. When the timing was right, Joseph was elevated to second in command. The years of waiting and preparation were not wasted. They were critical for the fulfillment of God's plan. Divine timing always works with divine preparation. So, what do we do while we wait? Waiting is not passive. It's a time of preparation. Peter and John didn't just sit idly by. They followed Jesus' instruction and prepared the room for the Passover. In the same way, we have a role to play while we wait for God's timing. This might mean developing our skills, deepening our relationship with God, or preparing our hearts for the next step. Same we see in the story of David before he became king. He spent years tending sheep and serving King Saul. This time of waiting wasn't wasted. It was a time of preparation. David learned leadership, courage, and trust in God during those years. He didn't rush ahead of God's timing. And when the moment came for him to step into his role as king, he was ready. Just like David, we are called to prepare ourselves for the things God has in store for us. While we wait, we are not just preparing ourselves in practical ways, but also in our faith. This means staying connected to God through prayer, worship, and studying His Word. It means serving others and remaining faithful in the small things, trusting that God is preparing the bigger things behind the scenes. Waiting doesn't mean being stagnant. It means being actively engaged in faith. Think about the parable of the 10 virgins in Matthew 25. The wise virgins kept their lamps filled with oil while they waited for the bridegroom. They didn't know exactly when he would arrive, but they stayed prepared. In the same way, we are called to keep our spiritual lamps full, ready for when God's timing unfolds in our lives. Also, at the heart of preparation is trust. We trust that while we're doing our part, God is doing His. We trust that His timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. Just as Peter and John found everything ready when they arrived, we can trust that God is setting things in place for us. Our job is to stay faithful and prepared, knowing that God's timing is always worth the wait. And I know we've heard before that whatever it is that we're going through, God is preparing us for something bigger. It is not a waste. It is making us stronger. We've heard all of that before. But I'm also of the belief that if we stay connected to God, once we stay connected to our source, there is no event in our life that He has permitted that is not for a greater good. Nothing that happens to us happens by mistake. It is happening for a reason. So it is our duty to stay connected and to stay aligned. Stay open. What am I meant to be doing in this time of waiting? How am I meant to be preparing myself for what is to come? What is this birthing in me? What is this preparing me for? These are empowering questions that we want to ask in those seemingly dark times where we need to wait. And sometimes those waiting period could be for some days, some it might be months, some it could be years. But I want you to understand that it is actually birthing something greater in you. As we go through this week, I want to encourage us to reflect on what God might be preparing us for behind the scenes. What steps can you take to prepare yourself in faith and readiness? Remember, waiting is not wasted time. It's a time of growth and preparation. Share in the comments below what you are waiting on and how you are preparing yourself in the process. Let's encourage each other as we trust in God's divine timing. God bless you.